You were free to proceed.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's the it's a Boardwalk and Beach Committee. Today is the 12th of April, 2021, and the meeting is going to start at 10:30 and we're 10:29 right now. So let's start with a roll call, and then after the roll call, I'll have about 2 words to say, and then we'll go on into the approval of minutes. Guy Abernathy. Are you here, Guy? Frank Cole.
Here.
Steve Gerson.
Here.
Patricia Davis. Welcome, Patricia. This is Patricia's first meeting.
Welcome.
Really want to welcome her to the meeting, and we're happy you're here. Honey Fisher.
Here.
Brian Hancock.
Here.
Jimmy Horty.
Here.
Allison's not going to be here. Allison Stein's going to be, can't make it today. So we're missing Allison and Guy, but we have enough to, and I'm Chair Lagree, the chairman, and we have enough to conduct business. So the meeting is in order and progressing.
Jay, just a second. It looks like Patricia might have dropped off, or am I just not seeing her?
I saw her a minute ago. Let me.
Yeah, I don't know if she's having technical difficulties or not.
Okay, and she answered the roll call.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't see her. I'll check with her.
Okay, thanks, honey. Has everyone had a chance to see the minutes from the last meeting, which was the March 15th minutes? And if so, do you have any corrections, or if not, do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to
I
approve.
move. I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, those minutes are approved. We had no correspondence, or I am aware of no correspondence from this meeting, since the last meeting. And what I'd like to have everybody do, if you're not speaking, turn your sound on mute. But I think you all already are on mute anyways. But just a reminder. And the first part of old business is to remind everybody that we are advisory. We are advisory to the Board of Commissioners. We focus on the beach and boardwalk and everything pertaining to that. Our motto is safe, clean, friendly, and do no harm. And that's how we proceed. Before I go on, I would like to, I know that Public Works Director Kevin Williams has a job to do, and I'd like to hear if he has any updates or advice or information that we should be hearing. And after that, he can choose to stay or to go. Or do we, Brant, do we have any folks on the video and audio who are signed up for the meeting, or anybody on phone who signed up?
No public has signed up that has been brought to my knowledge.
Thank you a lot. And Kevin, proceed.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner. You'd have sent a couple of things that you might like to have a little update on. First being any update on the Verizon request for 5G towers using our light poles on the boardwalk.
Yes.
Quick answer is no. They've gone back. They're really stymied by what we told them or what we showed them with respect to the foundations, and they're just having a tough time coming back with something that they'd be able to fit right on the existing foundations for the light poles. So literally nothing since the one, I guess it was a special meeting the board had, or one of the board meetings in January that, we spoke at length about what they were asking and where they were asking to use. They have submitted quite a few additional requests for poles throughout the city. 11 more they've requested. Let me back up just a second. They've had 5 approved on Rehoboth Avenue to replace the banner poles in the median. And I think they're going to start Wednesday with 4 of those. And they'll, we've seen all the details on the new poles. They're almost identical to the ones AT&T did several years ago. So it'll have an antenna mounted at the top. It'll have, be wider, a little bit thicker than our existing poles, but it'll match, what AT&T did. And it's, I guess, basically the first 4 blocks of Rehoboth Avenue, starting at just north of the bandstand, 1st Street, 2nd Street, and I guess it's up by Starbucks, is that 4th Street that comes out there. So they're going to start those, they think, Wednesday. You may have seen some out there today trying to run some fiber in the existing conduits that are available to them in the median. So that's moving forward. So the other ones, they've come in and are asking for 11 more throughout the city, basically 4 or 5 down King Charles and 4 or 5 down Bayard. So we're working with the staff here and Verizon as to what the appropriate look will be and the appropriate locations for those. They are having a lot of problems with Delmarva, and Delmarva is prohibiting them from mounting on many of their existing poles because of various reasons that Delmarva doesn't allow other vendors on their particular pole. So anything with primary power, they're saying no to, and so virtually all of the 11, or might be 10 of the 11 that they're asking for will be a new pole of some sort because they weren't able to use an existing Delmarva pole in the vicinity. So we're working through those details now. We're actually meeting with the vendor again on this Friday to kind of go through the first 5 of those 11 that are coming in. And that's kind of what I know about 5G antennas. You asked about boardwalk maintenance. So you've probably seen the carpenters out replacing boards. Obviously, that's a never-ending process. I think over the years, certainly in the last 2 years, this committee and that board have made it pretty clear that we want to stick with real wood boards. So we're proceeding with individual board replacement as long as we can kind of keep up with it. We're going to try to do that. If we get too far behind, then we'd have to look at maybe doing a contract to get mass sections replaced at a time. But we're not there yet. Although the boardwalk's been in a whole bunch of years now, so it's those boards are lasting, we think, about 9 to 10 years before they need to get replaced. Recycling on the boardwalk right now, we've been saying we really don't want to do that in the COVID era, until we lift some of the COVID restrictions. Getting pushed pretty hard to maybe disregard that and get them out there. Our issue this summer is going to be kind of lack of resources, in that we are currently about 8 people short in our seasonal streets department staff. So we're trying to figure out what we can do or can't do with that reduced staffing. By the time you put trash collection throughout the city 4 days a week, yard waste every other week, you do all the boardwalk cans will get out, all the beach cans that get out. It really becomes a trash collection issue for the streets department once the season rolls around, and 8 short is a significant impact to that. So we're looking at what we can do or not do with respect to the staffing levels that we anticipate to have in that department. Benches, we've been sneaking benches out throughout the last probably 2 weeks. We'd like to do it early in the morning. We're out at about where we would want to be with respect to May 15th or so startup. But if anybody sees that, you know, we need more out there, we can bring more out there, or at strategic locations, we can certainly put more out there. You'll recall last year we pulled a bunch out because the state's requirement was, you know, you gotta be able to wipe them down, you know, with disinfectant twice a day, or spray them down, which just became, you know, too burdensome. So that we kind of relaxed that a little bit as things went on. And I think we're going to go into this season with that relaxed as well, even though I think the state guidance would be, you know, you still got to wipe them down. The bandstand, which looks like they're going to open up for concerts again this summer. So we've positioned, they're going to have a restricted number, you know, for outdoor viewings or outdoor events, have a better number than indoor. So we've put benches out there that would accommodate what their probable capacity will be. They're working through the details on how to kind of control the access to that area. But it looks like they're going to open up for concerts and events there at the bandstand. So the benches are out there for that. Boardwalk restrooms. Yeah, so we're going to re-advertise the Delaware Avenue restroom kind of upgrade to get some ADA compliant additional restrooms and some changing rooms. Our plan would be to advertise that again this summer and hope to start construction on that around the 1st of October after this season, so 1st of October. And we met with the designers that last week on the Baltimore Avenue facility upgrade and gave them the go-ahead to start with that design. So the intent would be this fiscal year, kind of work through the design of that, and then once we see what options are available, then go back to the Board of Commissioners and see if there's money available or they want to fund it to do an upgrade on that facility. And it looks like, at least the discussions we've had previous to this, it looks like kind of add a second story, give the lifeguards, beach captain that upper level, gives them better view of the boardwalk, a whole bunch of reasons, gives them a training room, lockers, all those kind of things that they wish they had now, as well as then add additional restroom capacity and some changing rooms down on the first floor. But again, working through the design this year, hopefully the next fiscal year would be able to advertise for construction. And I think that's about it on your list of questions. I'd be happy to answer any other questions anyone might have.
Yes, honey. You're muted. You're still muted, honey. Still can't hear you. Brant, can you unmute, honey?
I think she has the wrong mic selected. Her mic became disconnected or something. She'd have to go into the settings and look at that.
Honey, if you can hear Brant, wave your hand. Do you know how to get to your settings on your computer?
Are you talking to me, Jay?
You
Nope,
you know the start video, there's an up arrow, it says video settings.
Is this Mac?
And then you should see audio in that left, and then make sure your microphone is selected correctly.
While Honey, Kevin, can you hear me? While Honey is checking out her audio, I got to tell you, I think the maintenance on the boardwalk is as good as I can remember since the boardwalk was new in 2010. I'm really pleased with the work. And I know they didn't get all the way. Last I heard, they were trying to get to Rehoboth Avenue, but they've been doing a super good job.
One thing I would ask is, or bring to your attention that you probably already know, but then ask comments on it is, you know, DenRec has kind of changed their philosophy a little bit on the fencing and the dune crossings and the like. So we got a lot of dune buildup this winter, significant. And if you were down on the beach, the old the fencing that was at the toe of the dune on the far side, the ocean side of the dune, in many cases, it's completely under sand at this point. So Denrec has not been too excited about leveling out the dune crossings and all. They like it built back up. So last year, or maybe it was a year and a half ago, we got a lot of funding from the senators and Lopez and Schwarzkopf, bought us a bunch of dune crossings. So we have mat for about every dune crossing. So what we will try to do is just kind of backblade the dune at the kind of the existing levels and then put the mats down. It's going to be tough at some because now, it's going to be on a mat, but you're still going to go up a hill and down the other side. And then somehow we've got to tie the far side, down into the ground so it doesn't continue to blow and wash away. But we're fighting that, and we're going to do that because I think that the mats will certainly help people get across the dunes. The other thing they've changed is they're in the kind of central part, they've changed dune crossing fencing to posts and rope. So that'll also help facilitate the blowing in of the dune and raising the dune a little bit, which good and bad things, obviously, as a result of that. But again, we're going to spend a little more time this year than we have in past years kind of maintaining those dune crossings. They are currently out there now putting in new fencing down at the toe of the dunes. So I think they started up at the north end. They're kind of working south. So they're doing a lot of work out there. It's just a little bit different flavor than what we've seen in years past.
Okay. That was Honey's question, was the fencing. And Honey, was it the fencing for the access, or was it the fencing down along the toe that you were wondering about? The fencing along the access points. Yeah. What happens is the fencing cuts off facilitate the fencing, stop the flow of sand across. I think that's what you were saying, Kevin. And now with just the ropes, there's nothing to stop the sand from going across. And I think you were saying that that's going to mean a lot more work for our folks to keep the access clear.
It could, obviously, be our first year trying it. So especially with the mat, so we'll just kind of see how it goes.
Okay. And you have it.
The other noticeable thing, not so much for, although it impact your committee as well, but more on streets or transportation. If you look at what they've done on the north side with the fencing, we've lost a lot of bike space, which those are heavily used for bikes. We had a bunch of racks out there that are always used extensively. So we're looking at options now, and we asked them, say, hey, can we open that back up? No, it's all about protecting the dune, right? So we're looking at some options to take them back across the street and maybe giving up a parking spot or two on the west side of Surf to get, because we need the bike racks out there because they're very, very heavily used. But we won't be able to get them up on that side on the ocean side of Surf anymore.
Honey, you and Patricia, is that a problem with you guys? With if they take a couple parking spaces away and put bike racks over there?
You mean like at Mariners Park? Is that where you're talking about?
I think in the parking area just north. Is that correct, Kevin?
I'm looking more at the street ends on Pennsylvania, Oak, Park.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. They're really full already.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's it won't bother our building at all. They're
not. How about you guys?
No, that's way far up there, and there are a lot of bike racks up there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not so many anymore.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they're gonna need it.
Does anybody have any more questions for Kevin before he heads out? Or
Brian had his hand up earlier, unless we touched on it already.
Are you okay, Brian? Okay. Frank?
I had a question.
has the city been in touch with Dewey Beach officials regarding their battle, so to speak, with Verizon and the 5G towers?
Yes, in fact, we were quite a ways ahead of them with being able to kind of at least set some standards on what they could put and where. When they first got their first application, they called us and met with the mayor and the city manager and maybe a commissioner or two, but to kind of talk through the process we had gone through to designate certain areas like the Boardwalk and Rehoboth Avenue that had a certain design standard for them. I think their issue, is mainly that most of those streets over there are Del Dot streets, and that Del Dot has been very clear that if it's a Del Dot street and it's public access, that they're going to allow the antennas to go up. So I know they're very upset kind of with some at the street ends down there, but I think they're on Del Dot streets.
And Kevin, if you had a crystal ball, what would you say about the future proliferation of these towers all over town? Because it doesn't seem to be any end. I'm just kind of scratching my head with as much technology as we have. We're looks like we're in store for dozens and dozens of these scattered all around town.
I think you're right. I mean, if we just looked at Verizon, right? Let's say they had 15 or 18 on the Boardwalk. They got 5 on Rehoboth Avenue. We're at 20, whatever that is. Let's say we're at 23 and now 11 more. So that's 34, 35-ish in the city. And we really haven't gone west of Bayard yet, right? So you got Country Club and you got some of those communities up in there that 5G looks like their Verizon has gone at about every 2 to 2.5 to 3 blocks. They need an antenna. They've done the Boardwalk, they've done King Charles, and now they've done Bayard. Next up will be Scarborough, right, to get it. And then they've got to get a little bit more on the north end. They've kind of slighted that a little bit with that. And that's just Verizon. We haven't heard much from Delmarva since, in fact, we haven't heard anything with respect to 5G from from AT&T. Other than when I was dealing with Verizon on these last 11 and asking them why they aren't using existing poles or using whatever, their answer on a couple of them were that Delmarva wouldn't let them use that pole because they're already working in agreement with AT&T for that particular pole. So I'm guessing if I wanted to get my crystal ball out, it would say that on every corner, virtually the same corners probably, you're going to have an AT&T pole and a Verizon pole diagonally from each other on virtually every other or maybe every third intersection in the town. And
they're I guess in theory in perpetuity. There's no finite lifespan for these poles as of yet.
Yeah, that's way outside of my wheelhouse is how fastly we're going from 4G to 5G to 6G. I think Dr. Trejo sent the presentation in maybe for you guys to see on his view of the world with 6G. Yeah, the technology seems to be getting better, except it's shorter in range each time, and it causes a proliferation of additional poles.
Thanks, Kevin.
That's true, and Frank hit a really good point. There's just no end, and the power companies, when they had the FCC, when the Ninth Circuit took the FCC case, power companies were on the opposite side of the fence as the telecommunications companies. They don't want them hanging anything on their poles, and it's just a real mess. And of course, we're in the lurch. The cities and municipalities are in the lurch. We're just, I don't know. Anyway, I think the only answer is really hard pushing our politicians to get some kind of solution. And
in all honesty, I think it's much bigger than our view shed in Rehoboth, right? They'll tell you it's a national security kind of thing, and we're going that way. Right? You just kind of try to make it look as the best you can for every particular instance, because it's coming. We're in a race, right, for 6G with China or something. It's always racing with somebody to get the next new thing. But it's coming, no doubt.
Yeah, it sure is. And our only fight is the aesthetics fight right now. And I think we should push that as much as we can, but we probably are pushing that as much as we can.
Yeah, I guess the other thing that would be helpful, if you wanted to kind of spend some intellectual time on it, is okay. So because they're having issues with the boardwalk lights. Maybe we have a little pause here that it's time to think. Well, if we were right, if it was a blank slate, would we change our minds and say do something else other than on the east side of the boardwalk, and you want to give up the street ends, on the west side, and then you're fighting what Dewey's fighting, right? You're going to see it from the street, but maybe you don't see it from the boardwalk. So maybe you guys might want to spend some intellectual time on that and go, if we had a chance because of this pause, would we do something differently? And you've seen what they're able to do with respect to the light poles. Would we do the same thing again? I guess would be interesting.
And I think we are doing that, Kevin. We are. We're having those types of discussions, and yeah, and that's about what I'll say right now.
Over coffee, right in the morning. Yeah, I saw two people. Yeah, we started asking about light poles on the boardwalk, but it's a discussion I think worth having for sure, right?
Yeah, and we will, and we are. So we'll just go forward from there, I guess. Anybody have any more questions from? And just to review it, the holdup as we speak right now is finding a compatible base to be able to take enough volume or enough bulk to save us from having to put extensive or to save them from having to put extensive accessories and boxes and switches on the other side of the boardwalk.
Correct. So I think we've held our line that we've designated that as a key area or aesthetic area that we want to maintain the aesthetics on. And when they realized, they've been all along saying, hey, we can mount this pole that we want you to use. We can mount it on the existing foundation and keep everything the same. So the only thing you're going to see different is, the antenna at the top of the pole, and the pole's a little thicker. So we've pushed really hard on trying to get that as similar as possible. When they realized that they can't do the base like they wanted, then you're going to have, conduits running outside the base, which we've, been pushing back hard on. No, we want everything inside the little cove bay or little cove, what they call it, but the little shell that kind of sits over. They haven't been able to do that. So they came back and said, well, could we just move it over 2 feet, put a new foundation in, give you a whole light pole, take the old out? Well, then they couldn't, for whatever reason, they couldn't just make that just like the boardwalk. So now they'd have a little bump out there because you couldn't get it down below boardwalk level and still maintain the circuitry going to all the other lights. Then they wanted to put a little decorative device cap kind of thing over it. Well, now you got say you got a 2 foot by 2 foot bump in the boardwalk. We're going, we're not letting that happen, right? So they've been fighting that, trying to figure out how to live up to their original bargain of keeping everything inside that base plate at the bottom. And I just think they're having a hard time doing it.
And you're saying to us, I'm sorry, Steve, go.
I was to say, Kevin, you know if any of the other beach towns, let's say in New Jersey, have gone further on this than we have?
I don't know personally, where they are with the whole 5G.
Okay.
And I think this is where Kevin says we might put a little intellectual work and see if we can figure things out because we have a little time. And I think we should do that. Any other questions for Kevin? Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
And I'll be listening in the background, Commissioner. So just holler real loud, and I'll come back up.
Okay. Thanks a lot. We're going to take about 5 minutes and talk about circadian rhythm, and then we'll talk about dark sky a little bit while we're going on. But your comments were really great, and we appreciate your coming, and we appreciate your candid work with us. We really do. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at Dr. Trejos's sketch or title slide with the 6G? There's some really critical things in there. If you take a look at that, the closer they get to the speed that they're looking for, which is as that chart moves to the right, the closer they're getting to ionizing radiation. And ionizing radiation is bad stuff. So as we look at 6G, we're really getting into some danger areas. So I don't know what's going to happen, but once they get to the visible spectrum, that's as far right. That's as fast as they can get it. So I don't know, but they're fighting latency, and and they can tell us that it's so we can download movies on the beach, but that's not it at all. It's the driverless cars. It's the autonomous vehicles that's going to take humongous amounts of data to keep it going, and it has to be really fast. And that's why we're getting antennas everywhere. It's the latency problem. But yeah, that was the importance of Dr. Trejos's sketch on bandwidth and radio frequency on the beach. But that's not it at all. It's the driverless. That's me echoing, I guess. Okay. Did everybody get a chance to have a look at the video from Ava Schernhammer? She is the world authority, in my opinion, on circadian rhythm. And the only reason that we're talking about that is it's one more arrow in your quiver that you can shoot to bolster your position on removing light pollution and misuse of light and all the stuff that we do with light that we probably shouldn't be doing. But does anybody have any questions on that, on her talk? She did. I don't remember how many nurses were in her study, but there were thousands of them. And the nurses that she studied worked the night shift. And she was trying to find out if those nurses who worked the night shift had higher incidences of a lot of things, but she was concentrating on I think breast cancer, and she found that they did have a lot more breast cancer. So they thought, well, why should they? Well, it turns out that by staying awake all night, they suppress the manufacture of melanin for your body. Melanin is a hormone that you make when you sleep. And they found out in 2000, when we were all in school, we said light. We measure light because we have rods and cones in our eyes, and the light affects that. And we thought that when there was no light, our body made melatonin, and that when there was light, our body didn't make melatonin, it was suppressed. So people who worked all night and worked all day didn't get much melatonin. And they had other diseases, obesity, they had diabetes, there were a number of different kinds of problems that people with low melatonin have. And they couldn't figure it out because blind people have the same problems. They found in 2003, I think she said, that there is a third receptor somewhere in your retina that measures the light coming in. And if you have light, it suppresses the production of melatonin. And she found out that those people, even if they were blind, had the same suppression of melatonin. And so they figured it out that it was the third receptor that we never knew existed before. So if you stay up all night, it's a problem. And that goes with being exposed to light all night. People who sleep in lighted rooms have the same problem with the suppression of melatonin production. So I thought that was a really good article, and she's the world authority on circadian rhythm. And it was great that the Dark Sky folks asked her to come and lecture. And that was a great lecture that they gave for Dark Sky advocates. And I downloaded it and saved it. And I think I was glad to have had the opportunity to watch that lecture. Are there any questions before I go on? We need to make a hard decision on going forward with Dark Sky. We've talked about it, and I've communicated with you. Some of you have sent email to me with really good remarks, really good suggestions, and some realistic ideas. What I'd like to do is see if we can find something that we can do on the boardwalk now without a lot of hassle. The Dark Sky people came to us because we were low-hanging fruit. And probably what we need to do is to think about picking that low-hanging fruit and not go crazy. Steve has posed some questions that are hard to answer. You know, it's converting the whole town is maybe not something that we could handle at the Boardwalk Committee, and maybe we ought to just take a look and see what we can do ourselves. Now, I'm open to suggestions about things that are easy to do, easy to identify, and are measurable. In other words, that we can see what we're doing, see if we're making any headway. And Brian, what do you think? Go ahead.
Jay, I empathize with people, astrologers and hobbyists and everybody else that would like to look up from wherever they are at whatever time of night and see the Milky Way. That is a beautiful thing, there's no doubt about it. But I think there's a place for that. And I don't think the boardwalk or a town situation is a place. Rehoboth is a tiny little city surrounded by open space. We've got Henlopen Park to the north. We've got Indian River down to our south, and go west. You go out towards Seaford. You've got huge areas where if somebody wanted to see the night sky that much, it's not going to take a heck of a lot of effort on that person's behalf. And again, it's not that it's hard for me to say that I'm not interested in this. It's just hard for me to get onto their side, knowing that there are other things that they can do to achieve their end. And I don't believe it's the city or the Rehoboth Boardwalk Committee. I don't think it's our responsibility or our remit to be looking at this.
Thanks, Brian. Steve, do you have comments that you could add? You're muted. You're still muted.
Yeah. So you referenced the email I sent you, and I wasn't sure if you had sent it out to the other members.
No, I didn't.
There's not much our committee could do, or even the city, other than control what's in, that we can control is like the lights on the boardwalk. Everything else on the boardwalk is either, private or I guess, Delmarva power. So we can't control that. I was just drove by Jack Lingo Realtors the other day because I live around the corner from it. I just noticed the whole building is uplit. And there might be one of the biggest contamination of lights in the city. And that's, obviously we can't do anything about that or any of the other buildings like that. So I suggest we leave it to the another committee or another group of concerned citizens, and if they come up with a solution that makes sense, we can go ahead and support it.
I hear you, Steve. Jimmy, what do you think?
I agree with what everybody has said. I think, tying in with what both Brian and Steve had said, I think, to go over to Lingo's, not trying to use them as an example, but many, commercial businesses and things like that, they use the light to draw, people in, especially at night and things like that. I agree if somebody can come up with a solution, within the community and things like that, that can give us something to present to the commissioners and the mayor and the manager, as these are the steps that we could take. I have no problem with that. I am more than happy. I've said it many times. I'm more than happy, to be a liaison between the public and this committee, just to, come up with ideas and, talk to a lot of people. And hopefully we can come back to something, to this committee that can be presented to the commissioners and the mayor.
Honey, do you have some things to add?
Well, it's things we've talked about in the past for sure. I think that it's something selfishly I look at, and I really like to see something happen because I've been coming to Rehoboth for a long time and stayed in a number of places. And we used to be able to stay oceanfront and look out at night and see the stars and look over and see Cape May. And I know from our building, you can't do that anymore because of the up glare from the lights coming from the boardwalk. So that's a very selfish point, my point of view there. But I think could be the same for all the buildings going down the boardwalk, the hotels and condominiums down there. But I think the city could take the first step and try to show people that we can direct it down. The commercial units along the boardwalk can still have their lighting. It just doesn't flash up into the sky. It stays pointing downward and you can still draw people in. I don't think it would be, I think it's going to be a hard sell to get it throughout the town, but if the city takes the first step and starts converting things downward, we can say, look, you're still safe. You can still have people coming in. You don't have to have this shooting up into the sky. I think you could talk to people like Lingo, to use them. I think you could talk to them and say, hey, let's, tamp it down a little bit. I think we could talk to the Boardwalk Plaza and say, do you have to have all those lights on all year long? Just turn them off. The Henlopen, we have lights on all over the place in every unit, and people don't turn them on. They turn them on once in a while. You'll see 4 lights on in the whole building in the exterior on the balconies. We like the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see the city take a stab at this and at least start replacing the lights on the boardwalk. And then we think about Rehoboth Avenue. The lights around town, the street lights around town, all direct downward. They're way up there, but they do direct downward. They don't just shine up into the sky. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, honey. Frank, can you hear me? Do you have something to say?
Yeah, Jay, I think I would like to table this discussion until the fall or maybe next winter. I think it's a little bit late to get the ball rolling at this point. And I also think it would be necessary to probably have a meeting of the different stakeholders, the Henlopen, the Star of the Sea, 1 Virginia Avenue, Atlantic Sands, Boardwalk Plaza, as they probably have the most to contribute to this. And I think if it were framed in terms of a voluntary initiative with the bigger hotels and commercial owners on the boardwalk, it might be easier to gauge whether whether they're receptive to it. But at this point, right now, if you're in the business community, you've got a lot of other things to worry about coming off the heels of COVID. If you're a landlord, you're probably more concerned about the health of your commercial tenants. And I like the idea, but I just think fast forward maybe 6 to 8 months from now, after the summer's over, and we might have more time to actually get something done on it.
Thanks, Frank. Patricia, can you hear me, or can I hear you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Jay, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me back?
Hello. I can, yes, and I'm so sorry for my technical difficulties. It's not a very auspicious beginning. But,
Good work. Oh, great. What are your thoughts?
well, I tend to agree with everyone else who's spoken. I do think we have to lead by example, and that means that maybe it's City Hall that goes dark sky, because that would be a good first step to show that the city supports dark sky. So I'm not sure it needs to be the boardwalk. Perhaps somehow the lighting around the City Hall building needs to go dark sky.
Those are good thoughts. I was just trying to figure out what we could do, what we could tell the Board of Commissioners on Friday. Here's what we want to do. Here's what we think. And here's how we want to go forward. What if we said, we're not going to get involved anywhere outside of our boardwalk, and we're not going to get involved with anything except our lights, and we're not going to do anything except try and design or come to some kind of consensus on what kind of lights we want on the boardwalk. And we're not going to talk to the commercial people. We're not going to tell other folks what they should or shouldn't be doing. And we're not going to take part in other things. Do you think that would be a good idea if we decouple ourselves from the Environment Committee, or just because it's such a big project that maybe we ought to try to concentrate on what we're doing? Does that sound like a decent first step? Shall we?
Yeah, I think that is the smart way to do it. I mean, I think, what Patricia said, and I think, what Honey has said also too, it's almost like, if we're leading by example, just to show that it's not, it's helping rather than hurting or taking, it's doing what it's supposed to do. I think that is a good move. And I think that will also give us time to, meet with different people, concerned people, and, kind of come up with a game plan from there.
Okay. That's what I'll tell them. Do we have whoa, I lost everybody. Do we have a consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I think that's agreed.
Okay. I have no screen anymore, but now I have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can see you.
That's a bad thing.
Welcome to my world, Jay.
Okay. What do you think about not having a May meeting and meeting sometime in June at night or sometime when it's dark, and go out on the beach and take a look and see what we see on the boardwalk, either by ourselves or all together, and make some notes, and then come back to our June meeting and give our opinions? Does that sound like it would be okay?
That sounds good. That sounds good to me. Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to that at all.
Okay.
Jay, I just have one, and it's more of like a technical question. If we as a group meet, do we have to I mean, I know that we're not going to have that May meeting. I just want to make sure that, we can't get into any, we don't have any issues, meaning that a meeting was, if we were all together to discuss that and it wasn't notifying the public and things like that.
Yes, if we're all together, we're going to have to notify the public that we're having a meeting at 9 p.m.
Okay, yeah, that's my concern.
on the beach
Yeah,
in front of
yeah,
Rehoboth.
wherever, right.
And this is what our agenda is, and that's what we're doing. And anyone who wants to come will have to stay 6 feet apart.
Correct.
Or we can have a regular meeting on the 21st of June. Remember, the 14th, there's an appeal for clear space, so we won't be able to have our usual meeting during the morning. But we could meet on the 21st and everybody report what they saw individually during the time from today and the time to the 21st of June.
I like that idea. We could go
Me
down.
too.
When it's convenient to us, we could go down. Even 2 or 3 together could go down. We don't need a whole group.
Yeah, we can't be more than 5, but
Right.
and Stan brought up when Stan and I talked about this, and he said, darkness is getting pretty late in those days of June. So it may be well past 9. It may be 10 o'clock before it gets dark enough to really see what kind of glare there is or light pollution or what's coming from the boardwalk. So that's why I kind of think maybe if we just individually do it, come back and report on the 21st at the 10:30 a.m. meeting. We'll all get together at 10. And I assume we're still going to be having virtual meetings in June. I just don't know. Yes, Brian. You're
muted, Brian.
Sorry, you brought up a good point there, Jay, in mentioning the clear space theatre. I wonder, is building permits going forward, will developers now require or be required to comply with dark sky lighting on the exterior of buildings going forward? If they're not, maybe that would be a good start.
I'm not able to answer that question. There has been talk in other meetings, committee meetings, not ours, about changing ordinances to reflect dark sky principles. I don't believe that is probably not going to happen, not for a long time. Don't be surprised if the mayor calls on the May workshop to talk about dark sky. And the commissioners may have some ideas. And that may be something that gets talked about. But there'll be a discussion between now and our meeting on the 21st about dark sky. And it'll be with the Board of Commissioners, I believe. Maybe not. Maybe the mayor may decide he didn't want to talk about it. But we'll give our report on Friday and tell them what we think about it and see what they do. But don't be surprised if that doesn't happen. One more thing. As you folks know, Mayor Mills has wanted all of the committees to have a chairperson who's a commissioner. And that's how I'm here. That's how Dick Burns on Environment Committee and Animal Issues and Pat and all down the line. What I have to do is build an agenda, and then I have to write a report that I give on this coming Friday. And then I have been preparing minutes. What I'd like to do is have the minutes prepared by someone on our committee. And I have asked Patricia if she would do that and she said yes, she would. And but what we're thinking about, and this is Patricia's, and she has great ideas, said, why don't we do a rotating minutes, and somebody can do it for 6 months, and then the next person can do it for 6 more months, and give everybody a chance to write the minutes, to take part in the functions of this committee, and maybe learn about the city's requirements and stuff like that. And it would take a heck of a load off of me, because it takes me quite a while. What happens is we have the stream, so you can watch the video stream and do a pretty good job of minutes. And I'll send everybody a website reference to how to make good minutes, or the ones that I follow, which are the ones that Robert's Rules of Order recommends. But anyway, for the next 6 minutes, for the next 6 months, Patricia's going to do the minutes, and I really welcome that. Now she's getting a break because we won't have any May minutes. We'll have minutes for today. So, and I really, really appreciate that, and I think we all do, for that matter. But anyway, I'm ready for comments. What does anybody have comments that we need to make going forward, or we need to think about, or that we'd like to do? Or
I actually have something. Can you
Yes,
hear me, Jay?
I can hear you. I can hear. Is this Patricia?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, this is Patricia.
I can hear.
I've been watching the Wilmington Baltimore Avenue streetscape project meetings,
Yes.
and there have been, and it's very, very interesting. Actually, I encourage everybody, if they have time, to watch them. They hold meetings every Wednesday. But at the last meeting, there were about 3 retail shop owners who were very interested in how they could get traffic off of the boardwalk and down Wilmington and Baltimore. So I'm wondering if that's something we might want to add to our agenda, so that we can help, we can help the retailers get some business off of the boardwalk. Some people were saying maybe they have certain paths put down that connect to the boardwalk going down the sidewalks. I mean, there are a number of different ideas, but I just think that might be something we want to put on our radar to help the the shop owners.
Yeah. Frank is on that committee. And Frank, would you like to address that?
I would. I have businesses on both of those side streets, and a little bit of experience with this. And I believe 15 years or so ago, then Commissioner McGinnis had a similar type of thing where businesses on the side streets could benefit from having a little traffic directed off the boardwalk. And my own experience, going back even further than that, a few decades, Ocean City, Maryland, permitted things like sandwich signs on the boardwalk, but only in the off season. And I don't know if I'd be comfortable recommending sandwich signs. It would seem to be like a commercialization issue, but some of the businesses on the side streets could benefit from a placement of some sort of sign on the boardwalk directing beachgoers, boardwalk goers to what businesses were on a particular side street. So I think it's an idea worth exploring.
Yeah, I remember I also watch those meetings and take big time notes, and I could make some comments about, there are some really smart people on that task force. And I remember the discussion about getting people to come to your shop or your business. And she had there were some discussions about one-way streets and how they lead people away from your business if it's not done properly. And that might be something that they could do at street ends. Maybe that could be a part of the streetscape at the ends of Wilmington and Baltimore. A list of shops that are down that street. You know,
More,
we're going to spend another $250,000 on signs this year. Maybe we could make signs at the ends of the streets that point to businesses on Baltimore and Wilmington and First and Second for that matter. And those are good ideas to talk about.
I think it could be part of a broader discussion. And, if you follow the national news, there's a big infrastructure bill going through. Well, maybe after the Baltimore Avenue streetscape project and the Wilmington Avenue streetscape project is in the rearview mirror, we might want to talk about a Boardwalk streetscape project, and especially if there's a lot of federal money available for those type of things. This might be for something to talk about in future business.
Yeah, you bet. Do you know who the chairman of that infrastructure committee is? Chris.
No.
He knows about Rehoboth Beach. Maybe we could get in good with Senator Coons, who could help us out a little bit. I would love to see infrastructure to bury our utility lines. That would be a wonderful chunk of cash. And maybe they could head some this way. But, well, I'm going, yes.
Real quick, maybe, I'm opposed to anything on the boardwalk to direct people down the streets, but maybe banners, hung on the east side of the boardwalk somehow, telling them there are shops down those streets.
There's all kinds of possibilities. I was thinking of something at the end of the street that would not be on the boardwalk, that would be part of the streetscape. But I just don't know where we're headed. You'll see signs or banners that say Fred's hot dog stand this way, taffy shop this way, and they're in the island of the street. Something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
Just don't know. I'm hesitant to put sandwich boards on the boardwalk.
So am I.
Stan and I saw a bunch of them in New Jersey, and they're just not good.
Well, the city doesn't allow to have any signs, in front of stores, on the actual street. I think there may be an issue with it being, on the boardwalk then, because I know that there have been some issues when people have had the little collapsible signs, the portable ones that they put out there. I agree. I think our boardwalk is very nice. And I think, to have it cluttered up, I think you're going to run into, the one key thing is we want to have a safe boardwalk. And, God forbid, it's unfortunate the times we're living in, but everybody's, kind of doing one of these, looking on their phones. And if there's a sign out there, somebody's going to go down. It's unfortunate it's the times we live in, but, I think that's something that we would have to look at. As a committee going forward. I think it would have to be something that, is separate from the boardwalk, whether in the small island or something like that, from the boardwalk onto the street.
Yeah.
This is Patricia. It could be something as simple as one sign at Rehoboth Avenue where the bandstand or something close to it with a website listed. I mean, everybody has their cell phones, right? And their laptops and everything. So you could just have a website developed that lists all of the retailers on all the streets at this particular website. Could be something as simple as that.
Yeah,
there is one, it's the Rehoboth in my pocket. There's the Rehoboth Beach. That's a really good one. So, there have been some things, but I agree with you, Patricia. I think it's how do we get the person to go to that app, to find certain things, if they don't know about
exactly.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, lots of stuff. We've come to the end of our hour, and we're going to skip May, and we're going to come back in June full of ideas about how to fix the boardwalk light, and we're going to go forward from there. Do I hear any more necessary comments? I'm going to do like Stan. I'm just going to say this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.